Senator Warnock, are you ready? I know you just walked in, so I want to give you a second if you're not.
Sure. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Many of you have heard about the 4 Ps of Georgia: poultry, peanuts, pecans or pecans. That's how we say it in Georgia, and peaches. Well, I'd like to add a 5th P, plains. And with respect to my colleagues in North Carolina and Ohio and elsewhere, I would like to say that Georgia is the nation's most important aviation state. Georgia is home, after all, to the world's busiest airport, Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. The state's top export is aerospace products, which also happens to be the state's 2nd largest manufacturing industry. So we're proud of that in Georgia, and it's an industry that's responsible for an economic impact of over $57 billion. Mr. Washington, as you know, the aviation industry has recently been plagued with a series of high-profile disruptions and dangerous near misses, including the NOTAM system outage, Southwest holiday meltdown that made Christmas not so happy for a lot of folks, and close calls on runways in New York, Texas, and California. Each of these instances threatens the safety and economic viability of the aviation industry, the success of which many Georgians and Americans rely on so heavily. If confirmed as FAA Administrator, how will you ensure the smooth and safe operation of airports and airlines across the country?
Thank you for your question, Senator. Running the 3rd busiest, not the 1st, but the 3rd busiest airport in the world, I can tell you that I'm acutely aware of the disruptions. These are serious events. When this occurred during the disruption, I immediately called for after-action reviews during the disruption. And my whole career is evolved around safety. And so I think we need to speed up the redundancy issues around NOTAM. I think we need to look at the other redundancy issues around the other systems as well and make sure we do not have one point of failure for these various systems. I agree with what the interim administrator called sort of a safety stand-down just maybe a week ago. I think that's needed, but this would obviously be one of my huge priorities.
And tell me a little bit about that. Safety, of course, is very important. Yeah. But some of the other issues raised by these incidents is just the issue of consumer protection.
Yes.
And how you make customers whole when these kinds of things occur. Have you, tell me about your thoughts around that, and what will you do to improve consumer protections for air travelers, making the experience more predictable and enjoyable, and so that users of the aviation space consumers don't feel like they've been taken for a ride that they didn't pay for.
Right. Thank you for the question, Senator. I think that responsibility, of course, lies in the Secretary's office, but I would work with him and the Secretary's office to make sure that consumer protections were covered. I spend every day at my airport in Denver talking directly with travelers, and I mentioned in my opening statement that as the disruption occurred during the holiday period, people didn't ask me, did I have direct aviation experience? They asked me where their luggage was. And so I will always be on the watch for consumer protection issues and working with the Secretary's office on that.
Okay. In the little bit of time I have remaining, I want to switch topics altogether. I introduced the Aviation Emissions Reduction Opportunity Act and the Sustainable Skies Act to establish a new grant program and tax credit to support the production and adoption of sustainable aviation fuel and other low-emission aviation technology. I think this is important to reduce harmful air pollution and to move our aviation industry toward a more environmentally friendly future. I'm glad that critical provisions from both of my bills were included in the Inflation Reduction Act, and while this is an important step, the widespread adoption of sustainable aviation fuels, there's still much more to be done. If confirmed, how will you work to reduce the emissions of the aviation sector in line with the President's goal of net zero emissions by 2050?
Well, let me just say, Senator, that SAF could be a huge game changer. We are on the front lines at Denver International Airport, and other airports are doing some really good things too. I point to San Francisco. The CEO out there is doing great things around SAF. I would want to ramp up to administer the grants that are out there, consistent with the Inflation Reduction Act. I noticed the National Defense Authorization Act, which includes SAF pilot programs, is out there as well, coupled and partnered with DoD agencies. And I know that some airports, including Seattle, is moving towards that. We are too. We'll see who gets there first in terms of the pilot program that's approved by DoD.
Thank you so much. I look forward to working with the FAA Administrator to promote and expand sustainable aviation fuels. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much.